Hey everybody, Alonzo here with GulfCoastSmoke.com, and today we're smoking brisket on our brand new offset smoker. Before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about this table that I'm standing at. My pops put this together for me so I could put my Weber kettle in it and we can save a little bit of space in our backyard. So I'm going to cue some of the B-roll footage on this beautiful table. Shout out to Pops, I really appreciate it. So I want you guys to leave a thumbs up for my pops because, again, this is an amazing table. I love it. He was extremely excited whenever he thought of the idea to make this. He thought of it on his own. I've been wanting something like this, but he's been really into woodworking lately, and my dad does a great job. So one more time, shout out to Pops. We love you so much. It was really early when I started on the brisket, so we trimmed it up and we seasoned it up outside without too much of my voice audio because I didn't want to be too loud. I didn't want to wake up the kids, and we have neighbors all around us. Obviously, you guys know how I like to trim. I want to make sure that I have as many edible slices on this brisket as possible. And what I did for the seasoning was use black pepper and Southern Belle, and that's it. Now we're going to talk about how we're going to get this cook going with the Fridge 48. It's going to be our first time doing an extremely long cook on our brand new offset smoker. So we're excited to see how it does, and we're excited to see how this brisket comes out. Okay, so it's been about 4 hours on this brisket. We're about to check it to see if it's drying out in any areas, if we need to hit it with spritz. We're also cooking some beef back ribs. You guys will see that on a short or on our TikTok, so make sure to follow there. But let's see how this looks so far. Okay, so far the brisket looks really nice. I don't see any dry spots here. We do not need to spritz this. One of the things that you'll notice is the fat is rendering and it's turning yellow, and that's exactly what I want to see. We're not quite to the point where we want to wrap this. This is going to take a lot longer, but one of the things we're going to focus on today is rendering this fat. Once I can actually render this fat and poke through it with my finger, I know that it's time to wrap. So basically, as this brisket is cooking, moisture is releasing from the brisket. If you wrap too soon, that moisture actually releases in the wrap, and then you lose all that beautiful bark. So we're just going to put this back in. We'll check it again in another hour, hour and a half, and we'll see where we're at that point. Okay, it's been an hour and a half since I last saw you guys. Let's take a look at the brisket one more time. If it's time to spritz, we're going to do 50% water and 50% Worcestershire sauce. All right, so the bark is looking a lot better than it did at the last check-in. There's a couple spots here, if you look at my finger, where the fat looks really rendered and it looks pretty nice, but there's still some spots here where it's not as rendered as I want it. So again, I told you guys earlier that I'm looking for it to kind of puncture whenever I poke it. So right here, I could actually puncture it. It is very hot, so I don't want to do it. But over here, I can't do that, and I can just tell. So right here, that as well, I could puncture that, and I think that the bark is setting really nice over there. I am going to hit it with a little bit of this spritz, just because I do see a couple of spots that are dry. And just for everybody keeping track at home, I'm at 172 degrees right in between those two muscles. I'm not too worried about this at all, but I know that you guys like to ask that question. So 172 degrees, it is not where I want it yet. I am not ready to wrap this. We're going to let this go for another hour, and then we'll come back and check it one more time. We're 10 hours into the cook now. Let's take a look at the brisket and see if we hit all those points that we talked about earlier, and if it's time to wrap. So if you look right here at this fat, you guys can see I'm barely putting any pressure on it, and it's extremely squishy. Like if I'm putting any more pressure on it, I guarantee you that I can bust this fat. And that is exactly what I want to feel all over the brisket. The fat is properly rendered, and I know that if we wrap, we're not going to liquefy this anymore. So We are going to use the foil boat today, which I wouldn't be too worried about it regardless, because the foil boat still exposes the top of this bark. But if you're wrapping in paper, you definitely want to make sure that this brisket is completely rendered. The fat is completely rendered before you wrap. I did just hit it with some spritz. We're going to spritz it a little bit more just to get a little bit of that flavor, and then it's time for the foil boat. And 13 hours later, we're finally done with this brisket. It looks amazing, feels amazing, and it smells even better. We can't wait to slice this up and take a bite, but that's gonna be tomorrow. My dad called me up and said, hey, could you smoke a brisket for Sunday lunch? And I said, of course, I got you. So we're actually gonna rest this in our oven on keep warm until it's time to slice tomorrow. So right now, I just pulled this off the pit. It's around 207, 210 degrees. I don't want to throw it directly in there. I'm going to let it cool down to about 155 degrees internal, and then I'm going to throw it in. I actually messaged Chud on Instagram and asked him how he does it. So shout out to Chud for replying back and letting me know exactly what he does. We just want to make sure while we're resting this for a very, very long time, I wanted to see how he did it because, of course, his briskets are always looking great. And for our new Fridge 48, it held temps like a champion all day long. I started around 7 a.m. and all that I did was I filled up my fire management cradle with lump charcoal, put a few B&B fire starters in there, and I got everything nice and hot. From there, I threw some pecan sticks on top of the hot coals, and I was able to keep the fire controlled between 250 and 275 all day long. I didn't really talk through the fire management phase with you guys today because I started early and I didn't want to be too loud out there. But if you're interested in a video on that, drop a comment down below. I would love to talk you through why I do what I do and how it works for us. Obviously, every single offset smoker is different out there, but I find it really, really good for me to use coals as my heat source and wood for my flavor. Obviously, you're going to get a little bit of heat off of the wood, but anyway, if you guys want to hear more about that, let me know in the comments down below. So for now, I'm just gonna put this brisket on the countertop, let it rest at room temp. Once it hits 155, it's going in that oven, like I said, and then I'm gonna come back and talk to you guys tomorrow, right when we're slicing this brisket. Okay, 15 hours later, we're at my parents' house. We're about to slice this brisket up. I didn't talk too much about it last night because we were trying to get to bed. It was a really, really long day. Obviously, we love to do this, but it just took forever, and it's kind of weird because I'm allergic to wood. Like, I'm allergic to every single type of wood, so it's not deathly or anything, but I get really, really bad allergies in my head. Just starts going out of control. So I didn't feel too well at the end of the cook. I've actually never told anybody that. Only my wife and parents know that. So it is a kind of fun fact or a weird fact about me. But anyway, we got this brisket to where it was probe tender. All I'm worried about is how it feels. I don't even remember what temperature it was at when I pulled it last night. I let it get down to 150 degrees and then we put it in the oven on keep warm, and it's been 15 hours since then. It's been a very long time, so I'm actually kind of curious how this is going to turn out. We have done it before a shorter amount of time, but let's get right into the slicing. Yeah? You want to try some?
Oh, no, thanks.
No,
I
you...
gotta go get that stuff out. Y'all pull your vehicle back over there. Y'all good?
Okay.
All I had, I couldn't do nothing with that anyway. I can't back it up.
No, you're good. We just wanted to make sure we weren't in your way.
Oh, no, you're not in my way.
Yes, sir. All right. Take it easy. Yes, sir. That's the end piece there. You can see that the fat is nice and rendered. It looks really good. It's extremely juicy. Let's keep slicing. Okay, we're done with the slicing. Now it's time to try this brisket out. I'll tell you what, it barely holds up under its own weight. So it is a little bit overcooked, but I'll tell you what, it looks and smells so good. I would definitely rather be a little overcooked rather than undercooked. So let's take a quick bite. Zero effort, and that is so good. The fat is rendered perfectly. The flavor on that brisket is unreal. Unlike any brisket, honestly, I've ever had. I mean, like I said, it's just no effort at all. It's coming apart. It is juicy. It is delicious. I'm going to get inside and enjoy this with my dad. Don't forget, this was a special request by him. As always, I really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.